Cathar Love number 94. My God is not your God. I don't think I'll ever forget that story. It was actually a New York Jewish rabbi who was visiting Israel, and he was giving a talk over there, and after the talk this fundamentalist Jewish gentleman said to him, "Do you believe in God?" And the Jewish rabbi said, "Yes." He said, "I believe in God." He said, "But the God I believe in is not the God you believe in." So he didn't go on to explain, but I take it that the fundamentalist Jewish God was a God of wrath and destruction, and whereas the rabbi's God was a God of love, unconditional love. I hope so. So the Cathar God, the Gnostic God, is not the God of the Abrahamic Faiths, that is Judaism, Christianity and Islam. Because in essence the Gnostic, the Cathar God, is the source of unconditional love, undifferentiated love. And he's not into judgment, damnation, destruction, hell, and all those things that the Jews, the Christians and the Muslims are scared of, and their religions literally scare them, and this is, I think, the reason why some of them are old and decrepit, and they're in no quality of life at all, but they still want to hang on, because any day alive is better than facing that day of judgment, when you're going to die. Well, I often think that Mao Zedong, he just got rid of religion in China. Of course, it's creeping back in its own way, and this and that, and of course Mao was, in his own way, he was an extremist, a fundamentalist. But there's no doubt that we do need, there is an inherent, there's a deep feeling amongst most people, nearly all I would say, that there is a spiritual aspect to our nature, there is a mystical aspect to our nature. Even skeptics can feel this mysticism, even though they may not believe in God or the afterlife. Of course, the Cathar Gnostic God is an unknown God, but we do know that is the source of love, because whenever it's described by people under hypnosis, past lives, near-death experiences, and those situations, and also there are those people who do have insights, and invariably it is referred to as the source. And I think it's a good terminology, the source, because it is the source of all creation. It's the source of everything. The other major difference regarding my God not being your God, I don't mean specifically you, I mean most people who adhere to one of the Abrahamic Faiths, of the religions. Theirs is a personal God. A God in our image and likeness. Well, hopefully more in your image than likeness than mine, because I hope it's a bit more handsome than that. But be as it may, more like you, in your image and likeness. But from our point of view, the Gnostic, the Cathar point of view, it's unknown. But there's over and over again, there's this for people in the world of spirit, they talk about this energy, this loving energy. Now, because of this inherent sense of mystery, of mysticism, of spirituality, most people have this void filled by belonging to some religion or another, some cult or another. Also, in most cases, they adhere to and follow the practices of the religion that they were born into. And that's the usual thing for most people. Now, for certainly children in the West, America, Australia, England, USA, Sweden, the Scandinavian countries, those who are brought up with the Western education, where we are asked to question and inquire, to have a curiosity about life, and obviously that would also mean the afterlife. There's a rebellious stage, and that's late teens, or when one goes to university, if one goes to university, and we have all our various ideas and within politics and all aspects of life. And often the children will rebel against the beliefs of the parents and the practices of the parents. For most people, this is when they either break away from their religion and become an anarchist or a communist or a socialist or the other side of politics, a Republican, Tory, in Australia, Liberal. It's when people feel they start to inquire, they start to think, and also it's a time when people are seeking their purpose in life. What am I doing here? What am I supposed to be doing here? And for most people who've never thought about it, will often then develop a social conscience where they realise that nothing's going to happen in the world unless you and we start doing something about it. If we leave it to corporations, the most beautiful farmland in the world will be opened up for fracking or coal and just literally made into a desert and never go back to where it was before, producing crops for the world. So the sad thing is that here is a situation where we are taught, or our universities are teaching us, we're learning to be our own selves, or to think for ourselves, to be individuals. Although at that time there'll often be a common cause, like the anti-Vietnam or whatever it happens to be. But the point is, it's a time when we are thinking for ourselves, we are often rebelling against the social situation of the time, and especially if there's obvious injustices. And it's a good time, and it's often it's that time when they will say, well, they'll break away completely or to some degree from their religious practices which they'd adhered to until that time. So there seems to be something even within our nature Just like we have this sense of mysticism or spirituality within our nature, there also is a time when, at that late teens, early 20s, when we question ourselves, what we're here for, our purpose in life, our plan in life, how we can do something to help change the world. A very critical time in our life. Now, certainly regards religion, I've come to the conclusion, and it certainly may not be right, but it's because we're caught up in the religion of our fathers or our mothers, our parents, our society, in whatever country we happen to be. We're north of Europe, it could be Lutheran or Catholic. If you're down in France and so forth, in Italy, you could be a Catholic down there. In Austria, Catholic. In America, it could be Baptist because of the Puritan traditions. If you're in Indonesia, it would be Islam, of course. And Buddhism in so many countries. And the whole area, the whole district is caught up in that. And so we just do it in an unthinking way. But if people are given that education, the breakaway time seems to be not certainly around about the 20-year-old. My breakaway was from I was a good Catholic, young Catholic boy, altar boy and all that stuff. Dominus Domine Dominum, in Spiritus Spiritu. I can still remember at least I got a bit of Latin out of my altar boy days, but I gave it away when I was about 14 or 15. I mentioned it over the fact that I was going to eat a meat pie one day, and at that time if you ate meat on a Friday, it was a mortal sin and you'd be consigned to the fires of hell for all eternity if you happen to die after eating that meat pie and you haven't got that sin, that mortal sin, forgiven by a priest. My God, that makes priests pretty important, doesn't it? They can intercede between us and God, and they can save us from the eternal fires of hell. Now that's a pretty important position to have in society. Well, anyway, the thing is, I realised that at that time my mother wouldn't do that to me, so why would God do that to me, consign me to something like that? So I was off to becoming a heretic at that time, and religion just became a totally void in my life, progressively through life experiences and knowledge and reading and so forth, and especially Catholicism. When we go through the history of the popes and so forth, there's one pope, I can't think of his name. He was kicked out, and he was a pirate. He was up for incest, murder, pillage. He'd done everything, and these were the things they could print. So it was all the things that he hadn't print that they couldn't print, and so he was quite a boyo, that pope. Don't ask me his name. But I think this conclusion I was referring to is that religion is part of that. Is part of that thing that our parents have, that for some of us, and I'd say possibly we're the lucky ones, that we're managing to break away from religion to literally a higher spiritual and mystical level. And from that level, you can look down at all religions, cults, and invariably you can see they're all about control of the masses, which in many cases is not necessarily a bad thing. But religion prevents you from being yourself, your pure self, the individual self that you have. So my conclusion is that if we're questioning our plan in life, our purpose in life, what we're here for, one of the things is that some of us are given the opportunity to struggle against the beliefs of our parents or the beliefs that we're born into, and to develop our own beliefs. Now obviously I went through a whole series of different beliefs. I certainly studied Buddhism was one that I certainly studied into. Then I looked at Buddhism and I thought, hang on, it's not even Australian, you know. Women are still second class in Buddhism, and although I liked it in Korea, in one female Buddhist monk who was, because she was inferior to the male monk, she started her own Buddhist religion, but she allowed males to come in, but they had to be equal. So good on her. Judaism, women are still second class. Christianity, women are second class. If there was looks like there's going to be a female pope, I might start. I know things are really starting to change. So I think it's just for those who've had the opportunity of education, which has allowed us, you and me, to inquire, to develop our curiosity and realise what's going out there, what's going on in the world in the spiritual and mystical nature. And it's allowed us, through our life experiences, to realise you don't, you know, well, I don't need religion. I mean, what's religion going to do for me? Is it going to help me differentiate between good or bad? I can work that out. I don't, that's too difficult. I believe I've got a higher and mystical purpose in life. I'm freed of devils and demons and hell and damnation. So I'm living free and so back to my conclusion, which is also ties in with my God is not your God. I've managed to leave Catholicism far, far, far behind. Now, I know Catholics, I know Muslims, I know Jews, all my friends. In fact, talking the other day to this Jewish gentleman, and I just said, look, I don't care what you are, whether you've got religion or no religion or whatever. I just care whether you're a decent human being, and our relationship is a good relationship, and it's a loving, respectful relationship. The rest of it I couldn't care less about, you know, where you come from or whatever, or certainly what your beliefs are, as long as you're a decent human being. That's all I ask of any friendship. So again, so that's like when you're up there and you've got no adherence to any religion, you can look at all religion. You can welcome anybody from any religion. There's no big deal. And that's not to put you because you've broke away from religion and you've gone to a higher spiritual and mystical level within your own belief system. And that's not to say you've got this, I'd say you're special because there's not that many of you compared to those who belong and follow some religion, the herd, the beliefs of the herd. And these herds are pretty big. They get into millions and multi-millions. So if you're a person like myself and possibly who I'm speaking to, we're a very small minority indeed. But the point is, we are free. We're liberated. We can move here, we can move there. We have whatever. You've got this liberation. And the other thing is, although we don't know our God, the source, what we do know is there's this absolute totality of unconditional love coming from him. It, whatever, this loving energy. Now, very quickly, the old question comes in. If God is so good, why does he allow all this evil to go on in the world? Well, it's like someone, they refer to ETs, extraterrestrials. They're in the same boat. There's a very, very common thought and conclusions coming around from the knowledge that we're getting. I won't go into those sources because it's a talk in itself. But it's like these extraterrestrials where they, at certain levels, for instance, when we were hunter-gatherers, and suddenly in Iraq and Mesopotamia, in those areas, in the period of Sumeria, suddenly we've got from hunter-gatherers, and within 1 or 2 generations we're building cities, and we've got writing, and not only that, on that writing, these Sumerians, they knew about the progression of the equinox, and now they're in every couple of thousand years. So where did they get that information from? And also within their stories they have about extra beings coming in and instructing them. So these, whether you believe in it or not or whatever, but the more you investigate it, the more evidence there is. But these extraterrestrials are something like the source, the God is, they're over there, they seed us with information, they give us this information and so forth, but they allow us the free will to go about with it in our own way. And when they seeded that information about the atomic bomb, it didn't go the way they wanted, because we used it immediately for destruction of other human beings instead of using it as an energy source for the betterment of mankind. So the extraterrestrials are a very good example how you create beings and you give them these attributes of intelligence and so forth and knowledge, but at the same time you allow them the free will to develop in the way that they do, and which is not always good. Some of the things that they do are not the best, and yet they stay away. And but the one thing they won't do is allow us to destroy ourselves, because then they would step in, and it's not because we're destroying ourselves. To destroy this planet would also to be upset the equilibrium of the entire cosmos. And so we have this outside sources, spiritual and possibly extraterrestrial, and they allow us to be ourselves. They help us, they supply us with knowledge and so forth, but ultimately it's up to us as individuals. So my God is not your God, but I don't mean that to you in a personal level. I mean, what I consider God, the source, is not normal for most people, because most people believe in a personal God because they believe in one of the major religions. But I do believe in life, for us, the lucky ones, who manage within our own personal struggle, or it may be some incidences in life, things that happened to us, life experiences, we managed to leave that, we leave religion, and we're all heading towards our higher consciousness. But what it does is it gives us liberation, it gives us freedom to travel in any direction towards any belief, and to examine those beliefs, to examine that knowledge, and make up our own minds about this. I've talked about spirit mediums, and I'll want to talk more on the subject, but a friend of mine went to one that I recommended. And this friend, she's from Pakistan, and a very spiritual person. Now the thing about the spirit medium is she doesn't ask your name, who you are, what you are. Now obviously she can see you male or female, she can see you from another country, from your accent and your colour of your skin. And she gave everything about this person's parents who are dead, and also said that her mother, she really loved her brother, and when her brother died at an early age, it really hurt the mother very, very deeply and affected her for the rest of her life. So it did two things. What this visit did was it gave my friend insights into her family and reasons why she understood now why her mother seems to have lost it for so many years. But the other thing is, as I've said before, she says her mother is reunited with her brother, and they are back in a loving relationship in the world of spirit. So this is good news. There's no one's having been judged. No one has been damned. There's another world over there, another state of being. Sure, there's a veil that we can't see what's going on, and another dimension, but it's there nonetheless. And what is going on over there, and as this spirit medium said, your parents are highly interested in what you're doing, and in fact it is your father's wish that you go back to writing and teaching, because you did that so well when you were young. So this also helped this friend of mine, this lass, with a purpose and giving her a purpose in her life. So it's all good news. And if my God is not your God, at least the God I'm interested in, and I can only do it for myself, is a loving, as a God or energy force that emanates pure unconditional love for everybody and everything, everywhere, even though it doesn't interfere in our lives in so many ways. I won't go on. I wish you all the very, very best for our year, which has just come to pass, 2016. And may it be a joyful and an instructive year for you. Bye for now.